enrolled in that we talked about earlier. So this instructor resource, Teaching with Blackboard course, this is basically our text that we use for our not our face-to-face course, but our online course that we end up using, the Teaching with Technology course. So this is the text for it. So this is where we put all of the stuff on how to use Turnitin that we've already covered, how to use video, how to use Zoom, and it's set up so that you end up with the Bootcamp over on the left, which is basically, this is how you maneuver Blackboard, this is how you use it. Yeah. Oh, I am not? Hold on a sec.
Yeah. Yeah, on the right, click that bottom right. And that,
there we go. Thank you. Looks different sometimes. So this is basically the course. There's the boot camp, which is how do you get started. It's also, this is the place that I send new instructors. So if you have any adjuncts working for you, this is the place I send them. Go to this boot camp. This shows you how to get the course ready for students, how to open your course, how to set the dates, how to get your syllabi uploaded, all of that basic stuff. Then there's a section on communication, how to use Blackboard tools, how to use Zoom, how to do anything where you're using VoiceThread, for example. There's a section on assessment, how to set up assignments, how to set up tests. There's a section on grading, which is a lot of what we're going to be covering here. And then there's also a section on content for those people who are building their courses. So this is where I send people. So basically, one of the things that we always get from students, number one thing, and Jane can tell you about this more than anything, is that the number one request from students is, I want to see my grades. I want to know how I'm doing. And I always tell people, it's nice to show them how they're doing. You reduce their stress level. And you also help them improve as they're going along. So this is the number one thing we can do to help them. Now, one of the questions that I got earlier was, how do students know stuff? It was one of the things we brought up here. How do students know where to go, what to do? Well, one of the things that is nice is that one of the things we have in Blackboard is up at the top, you've got, your My CSS. Well, one of the pages is resources. And it's the number one thing we try to tell students and with staff alike. Go to your resources page. Go to that page. On the left, you'll see student support, and there's videos, and that tech tips for student success is right there. There's the course. That's the course that they go to. And there's all sorts of basic stuff here for them. And on the right side, you'll see the faculty support. And that course that I was just in, Do-It-Yourself Blackboard, is right there. There's also stuff for how to set up your course, how to get it live, tech tips, everything else is on the left. And then you'll see our website in the middle, and Turnitin information is there, Zoom information is there. So this is where I send people who say, I don't know where to go. Go there first. I send students there first. And send faculty there first as well. So it's a good place just to keep your bearings and to see if there's something there for you. So this resource, the Teaching with Blackboard piece, with this assessment piece, with the grading piece, it becomes, how do you use the Grade Center? Well, there's 3 tips I'm going to mention here, 3 main tips. And that is, first, set up your Grade Center well. Make sure that it aligns with your syllabus. What do I mean by that? I mean, you have assessments, probably you have tests, maybe quizzes. You also have maybe some things that are non-stakes kind of stuff, low-stakes stuff, discussion questions, for example. So you can break that up, and you can look at that and look at your grade book in that sense. What do I have that's important? What do I have that's not important? What do I have that I want to look at and set up? So that's one of the things, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. The second thing is to test drive your course. Look at it from a student's point of view. Always look at it from a student's point of view. And that goes back to the questions that we heard earlier. How do I know what students are seeing? Well, look at it from their point of view, and I'm going to show you that. And then lastly, the last tip is to limit your view when you grade. I'm going to show you an example that takes about 6 columns, and you look at it and see 6. Just what you need to grade at that point in time. So just going to do quick examples here. So the first piece of this, set up your grade center so it aligns with your syllabus. It's using categories as number one. And then we end up basically adding up those different categories. So I'm going to show you an example here. There's nobody in this course, so I don't feel bad about showing it to you. This is a nursing course, and it is a face-to-face course. In this, this is the gradebook right now, and one of the things I want to show you here is how many columns there are. Okay, how do you find anything? How do you know what to find? I mean, it's just ridiculous. I'd have to scroll forever. Where was it in the course? I think it was their way through. So one of the things, and the easiest thing we do to make this, is we create shortcuts to different assignments, or different types of assignments. These are all categories. So I'm just going to, let's say, look at assessments. This is divided off the syllabus. She has assessments as an item on the syllabus. So in the syllabus, we created a category called assessments, and the assessments are exams and evaluations. So that's it. That's all I'm looking at. So I'm just looking at assessments. Now what's nice about this is in her syllabus for assessments, she says these are so many points. So one of the things I can do is I can look at just assessments and I can see how many points they are as I'm setting this up, and I'm going to show you this. And I can look at all of these things because all of these things are different within her syllabus, and I can make sure that they match, which is why I created them like this, because these are different items for her. How many of you use categories? Very helpful, very helpful. I'm just telling you, very helpful.
Wondering what would be in the gradebook other than assessments?
Discussions.
And you don't assess them?
Some people don't, but you can, if you describe them. For example, what if your syllabus says discussions are going to be this many points, or are going to be worth 50% of your grade? Papers are going to be worth 30% of your grade. However you weight that, what you can do is you can set up your gradebook so that you have these different categories. So I can see exactly what the weight is for each of those things. How many points is each of those things worth? And you make sure it aligns. If I end up with a syllabus that is, or different points, if I have 500 points, this easily helps me discern where those points are. So these are all different pieces of it. How many of you use the manage column within Blackboard, this piece right here? Oh, good, perfect. It's a nice little piece, and I'm going to go down to column organization just to show you how this works. So right now you'll see I have a calculated grade, and this is the assignments plus the assessments. Now I use those two words, these are words I put in, because they match what the syllabus said. So anybody who teaches this, it's going to match what that syllabus is, this outline. And if I go down, you'll notice that I have different categories here. I have assignments, I have quizzes, I have whatever they are, and I can look at those. And I can go down to the bottom here, and I can see in-class activities, and I can, that's how much it is, and I have 4 points for that. I have assignment totals, I have 68 points for that. I have assessment total, which in the case of this course is exams and simulation evaluations, is 266 points. What I do for her, what I do when I'm designing this, I look at the syllabus and I said initially, this doesn't match the syllabus. Your points don't match. So something's issue here. We've got to change this. But I didn't have to manually go through and add that up. I just used categories, put them together, and it showed me how many points those were. So it makes it really easy for us to communicate, make sure it's right. But then it also makes it easy if I go and I look at this total, is I then use those different categories to create my final grade, and it's all set. How many of you, when you look at your syllabus, say papers are 50%, quizzes are 25%, etc.? You base it on weights. If you don't, go there. Because if you decide to add a quiz, if you decide to add an extra discussion, if you decide to add a paper, it's all part of the mix. You don't have to change your syllabus. I can't tell you how many times I talk to teachers and they go, well, I can't do that. That would mean I would have to change my syllabus. It allows you to change based on the needs of your students if you just make it a weight value within your course. Yeah.
I struggle with weighting because students it's difficult for them to understand their grade at any point in time. And I don't know if people who use weighting have communicated that to their students in a more effective way. I would sort of like to use weighting, but I just do it by the number of points I assign to assignments. But so I don't use weighting because of that, because I like students to be able to check their grade at any point in time.
Is there, that is, I guess that's my question too. Amy, do you have a solution for that? I'm thinking even from my own son's perspective, who was a freshman here, he had some faculty member at least who did use weighting. He was never able to tell at any given time exactly what his grade was on that day, which he could do for any professors who used raw point values. So, you know, I mean, he knew how, you know, he knew that he had so many points in the quiz category, but he didn't see anything that put that all together to let him know where he was on Wednesday. Is that something that you're able to do?
That's where you use the running total settings when you are using your weighted grades. So she's looking at her total column. There's a little box down there. She's scrolling down to it, and or no, you're not. Not related to the running total. Yes or no? A running total means this is your grade in the course at this point in time, not for any future assignments, at this point in time. So it will disregard anything that's not yet been assigned or anything not completed. All right, so here's a caution with that. If a student has only turned in half the assignments but done very well on them, they're going to have a false sense of doing well. So if they've missed assignments, be sure to put a 0 in there so that it knows to calculate that. But throughout the semester, if you make sure that this says yes, they will see where they're at that point in time, and it will appropriately pull in those different weights. So this is the answer to that. And then a lot of times when we talk with faculty at the end of the semester, and we want to say, okay, how does it look? Does it look the same that if I turn it just all off, and I don't want to put in all those zeros or things like that, to make sure that it's there. And you can create one column that's running, you can create one column that's not, and hide one from the student, and to make sure that they all line up, and that you feel comfortable with those numbers. And we have to prove the numbers, obviously, right? So that running total is what will show them at that point in time.
So if you have categories on the one side, so say you have exams as a category, and it's a certain percentage of their grades, can they go on and look at the percent of the category or not? Is it just a running total? You know what I mean? If I have 4 exams total.
If you have a column set up for that, yes, you can.
So you'd be creating kind of subtotal columns in the grade center, and you'd be naming them with that particular category. You could do that.
The other thing that's nice about doing categories is that you can create column subtotals basically for a category. For example, in this particular course, there are a series of in-class activities. Students only have to participate in 1 of 7, and they get a grade for it. But they need the ability to track it. Okay, so they need the ability, and teachers need the ability. But one of the things that you can do with the category, with the subtotal, is you can say, okay, I want to look at just this category called in-class activities. But as soon as you create a calculated column, one of your options is you can select that category here, and I can say, do I want to drop a grade? Let's say you have quizzes, and you have 10 quizzes, and you can say, I'm going to drop the lowest grade. You can do that. Let's say you take attendance, and you want to say, I'll give you 2 freebies. You can drop 2 of them. And then the other thing is you can also, with this particular case, I'm only going to use the highest value. So there's 7 activities, 6 of them are blank, and they're only going to take the value out of the one and the highest one, and that's the value for the category. So it allows you those calculated totals, just creating one column. And I'll show you where that is, but basically all you're doing is you're creating a column that allows you the opportunity to end up adding a value to it. So I simply end up creating one column, total column, with those activities, with that one category, and I can say, yes, drop this score, yes, only include the highest score, so I can make decisions about that category. And it's a really easy way to help make your course, your gradebook work for you and for the student. And they can see it.
So if you have those 7 activities and you have 1 score in the one you chose, do you have to go into the zeros for?
No.
Or it just automatically?
Automatically, yeah.
How did you get to all the selection of activities?
So basically what I did was I created a total column.
Yeah.
And what I did was I simply end up saying, let's create this total column. And then as you go down here on your choices, I can say selected columns or categories.
Okay.
And I simply have to select a category. And as soon as I select a category, it gives me all those options. So it's a really nice little tool for just making life simple for you.
So you had created a category called in-class activities.
Yep, yep. And you get to that by saying manage and then categories, and you can create a category. And you can name it whatever you want. The other thing I did here, which I want to show you because many people don't use this, and I only do it for these really, really big courses, but one of the things that I did here was I created grading periods, which isn't normal, but I created grading periods by going to manage and then grading periods. And I created 2 grading periods, one called first half and one called second half, because that's how many assignments there are in this course, and it became impossible to manage. So now I can simply look at the first half and look at the second half. Now you have to remember, this is an on-campus clinical plus theory course that meets 4 days a week. So it's mind-bogglingly busy. So we had to come up with a way to make this easy for students to see their own information and for the teacher to manage. So you think yours was busy? This one's unbelievable. So that gives you a little sense of how you can make this work for you, and our group can work with you on managing your syllabus, or managing this and putting all this together. But I will tell you, if you can design your gradebook well, your job is cut in half. It's that simple. The second thing you need to do is you need to test drive your course. You need to look at your student preview mode. and test drive your course. So this is that Teaching with Technology course. And to test drive any course, you need to make sure your edit mode's on here, and you need to enter student preview mode by hitting those little eyes, hitting that eye. And you enter student preview mode. This is the only way you can look at it from a student's perspective. Turning edit mode on and off does not do that, okay? It just doesn't do it. You have to hit that little eye. So I'm looking at this. Now I'm going to be able to look at any activity from a student point of view. Question?
I have one question. I don't know if this is meant for time to ask it or not, but I often will group students.
Yep.
If you're not in the group, you can't see it.
I'm going to show you that.
Okay.
So hold that question and that thought, because that's really important.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
Yes, it is. So I can go in and I can take tests. I can take a test as a student. I can submit a paper as a student. I can submit a Turnitin assignment as a student. I can submit all this stuff as a student. I can then, as a teacher, go in and grade my own work I submitted as a student. And I can see how it looks. So I did that while we were sitting here earlier today. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to look at my grades. I'm going to go in and look at course grades. Some of you said, how do I see what students see? Well, if I go down here, I'm going to be really mad if this didn't save my stuff, because I submitted all this earlier. I wonder, oh, this is the wrong course. Never mind. Thank God. Exit preview. And I'm going to keep this data. Okay, so exit preview. This is a great point to bring up. Delete your preview user data. It says recommended. No, don't do it if you're testing it out. You want to keep your user data. Keep your data. If you don't keep your data, you can't do any of this. So keep your data. Continue. I'm going to go around to the right course, which is this one. Hit that little I. This is the structure resource course. And this one has more people in it because it has all of our instructors in it, so it takes a little time. So let's try this again. Let's go into course grades. And you'll see this right here. Sample assignment. I submitted a sample assignment, which you can too, by the way, in the instructor course. You can submit your own assignment there. And you'll notice that there's this little bubble that pops up. View feedback. This is the feedback that you put in a rubric. So this is how a student sees feedback that you put in a rubric. Right there. The other thing I can do is I can look and click on the assignment. If I click on the assignment, it'll end up bringing me back to the assignment. It'll bring me to box, and I can look at my paper that I submitted. Seems apropos, don't you think? And I look at that little comment. Like the diagram, it illustrates the differences and similarities very well. But I can also look over on the left here, and I can look at this. I can click on that paper if I want to and look at that. So it allows me the opportunity to see what I've had and to look at this. So just to let you know that that's there. Feedback to learner with the comments. This is good work, but shorter than is really needed to fully address the elements. So it sees my feedback there as well.
So there's no excuse for students not, I mean, that it shows up pretty well.
But you have to tell them to go to My Grades. You got to tell them to go there to get their feedback. You got to tell them to go to My Grades to see their feedback.
And you can create a video at the beginning of the class. It says, welcome to the class.
Go
Here's
to
where
My
you
Grades.
find things. And by the way, here's how you find your grades.
So one of the things you said was the little conversation bubbles. So
Yep.
that's what's on the rubric. So if you put it in that comments to learners thing, that they would still get a little conversation bubble there, or would they?
They do it if you put it in the comment area at the end of the rubric, yes.
Well, so but there's two separate places to do that. There is on the rubric, and then there also is
In each section, in each section.
So either way.
I never use that, so somebody else is gonna have to.
They need to click on the new rubric to see your comments in the rubric. This one is like the overall feedback. But it's there and they don't know it's there.
Yeah, so I'm still saying a separate thing from that. So from the end of the rubric, there's that like overall comment. Is that one, or is it, because you had a separate comment there that said, this was too long or too short or whatever. Would they still get a little bubble like that saying you got some feedback? 'Cause that's usually where I put the some of them feedback, but maybe I should only be doing it on the rubric.
Rubric information is always contained in the rubric itself.
So they would have to click on the assignment. So that they'd have to go back in where clicking on the assignment, but then when they clicked over on the right, it would show them that. So they would not see this end product. They wouldn't see everything you put in the rubric. They would have to go to the assignment, and then they would have to go over and click on the rubric on the right to see everything you put in the rubric.
Now, one point here to make sure that you see things and that you are recognized as a student in the course, to submit something that, first time you go in as a student, you have to go to your settings in that gold bar. You have to change your settings so that it remembers you.
Keep the preview user and all data.
And you can say, that way you're gonna show up in the gradebook in a row and you'll see your assignment.
Can you use this preview at any point during the course, or can it only be before the course?
Anytime you want. Anytime you want. And you can remove yourself at any time you want, just by saying delete your data.
So would you show up as a student in the gradebook?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you do. You show up as a student in your gradebook.
And if you want to hide yourself as a student in the gradebook, but still keep it for your testing, you can go into the gradebook and hide any student role by you clicking on the name of the student, and then you can choose hide user. And you can also do that for students maybe who have withdrawn from the course, but they're still in Blackboard. You can hide them so that as you're kind of going down your grading, there is that. Okay. Now, one tip for this, other than testing, is that you can use this, and Amy will talk about it, to add yourself to groups. But the great power of this is if you add yourself to a group, if you want to give the whole class group grade of maybe participation or bonus or whatever, if you submit assignment, and you can talk to us about that, there's a way to hide this so that you only see that assignment. You can submit it on behalf of all students. You can use group grading to put in a point, and it will put that score in for everybody else.
Yep. And so here's an example. This is the course that I was talking about before, and these are my groups. I go in and I edit a group, and I'd already saved my data. We saw me in here earlier. I had saved my data, and what I did was I added myself to the group. So here is my preview user data. So I went in, I found myself, I added myself to the group after I saved my data. So you have to go in as a preview user. You have to say, yes, save my data. You go in, you edit your groups, you're in the groups. Okay, so this is the valuable thing for you that you were asking about. If I hit preview right now, because it's hard to see if you're using groups, how to get in that group and what they see, I'm going to go down, look at what I have, my groups. I go in, here's my groups that I'm in. Those are all of the tools that are available to me. So this allows you to see, and you can put yourself in all of the groups if you want. If you want them to have discussions and you want to monitor what they're just talking about, you can add yourself to all the groups, and you can go in and you can add comments to them as a fellow student within that. So it allows you that opportunity to participate. Just if you're going to do that, warn them about that first, please. Don't just sneak up on them. You know, tell them that you're going to be joining every group and you're going to be giving them feedback as they're going through this, but you're going to be as a student within the groups, so you can go in there and do that.
Another benefit of being a preview user is if you set up, say, a discussion for frequently asked questions about the course, so you can cut down on the number of emails that come into you. And if you set that discussion up as anonymous, then you can go in as your student view, as your student self, you can go in there and check anonymous, and then you can kind of plan the question or offer something so that it's not necessarily coming from you as an instructor, because a lot of times adding something as an instructor is silent conversation. So maybe you could ask a question and then answer your own question. You know, you can play those games.
I will tell you that the preview mode can be very valuable, and I actually have tested full courses, not like that 5 billion question thing I showed you earlier, but shorter courses. I actually have tested by going in, submitting assignments for all of them, submitting tests for all of them, and making sure that they actually work as I thought they were, and making sure the gradebook works, particularly when you have complicated weights and views. So it can be very, very valuable. And we can walk you through how to do this too if you're setting something up, but just be aware that it's very helpful. And then lastly, the grading with filtering, and I showed this to you when I talked about setting up columns. But basically what I'd just like to reiterate is the categories can be very helpful. Base them off of your syllabus kinds of stuff, just to make it easy for you to make sure things match. And then you can set up smart views. And basically the smart views allow you to simply filter what you see. You can filter based off of a category. You can also actually filter by saying, show me all students who are below a certain point. You can also filter by saying, show me only students who are below a certain point on exams. So you can end up seeing your warning people right away and not have to scroll through everything. And then the other thing is you can do the groups as we just talked about. You just want to make sure you set up the groups first, and then you set up your assignments as well. The other thing I want you to reiterate is when a student submits an assignment at a group level, and if you can submit one as a group person too, you will see needs grading in the group. So then you can go in, and what's going to happen is you can add that group to a smart view. So you can add your group into those things that you end up seeing over on the left side, so that instead of seeing below grade center, you'll end up seeing each of your different groups down below here. You can actually add those in, so you see those down below. So when you click on that group, you can then end up just adding grades for all of them. I mean, you'll see all of them, you put a grade in, you've got it for all. And you can change the grade if you want to. You can change the grade for one student. Let's say one wasn't participating as much and you need to change that, you can change that manually. Not a problem. You can also end up in your gradebook, you can end up editing how many rows are displayed. I'm not sure how many of you really use this, but you can edit how many rows are displayed here. So you can show few or you can show lots if you want to. The other thing that you can do is you can use the filter up here, and you can end up filtering using different views there. You can filter on grading periods, you can filter different categories, but you can also just look at those students who are in progress of an assignment, or you can look at those needing grading, not attempted, etc. So you can filter numerous ways to reduce how many columns you're seeing and how many rows you're seeing. And it's just all really valuable to make it so that you are not looking at 100 different columns and 50 different rows. Last tip, if you don't know this, I've been going back and forth with keystrokes here. 9 times out of 10 when I do that, people go, how do you do that? I open something in a new window. So I can put a my mouse on something, right click, say open in a new window. And then I hold down my Alt key, I press tab, I go back and forth. The other thing you can do is you can open it in a new tab, and you can use Control plus Tab to go between different tabs. So helpful for me anyway. So those are my 3 last minute tips for Grade Center. And I know we're over, so I don't want to eat up to people's time here. Questions? Karen.
Since we are all in that one instructor resource.
Yes, you are. Automatically.
Is that supposed to come up on your MyCSS, or do you have to go to?
It'll be on your MyCSS, but what I recommend people do is when you go to MyCSS, I'm going to open this in a new tab. When you go to MyCSS, if you're not seeing it, sometimes things can get hidden and you may not even have known you were hiding it, but hit your little settings thing here and make sure that it's not hidden. Because if it's over here and if it's unchecked, it's hidden. So just make sure that it's not hidden. It happens a lot. Sometimes people hide it accidentally. They think they're hiding the student course, and they aren't. They're hiding the ours. So just make sure you change your settings.
What are we looking for in that course? Yeah, but what's it called when I?
Instructor resource. Instructor resource teaching with Blackboard.
So I played with it, but I never joined them. I'm done because I didn't know.
Okay.
The Google site.
Yep. The Google site. Okay, we have one more.
Quick, just refresh real quick. Because I added stuff.
Oh, okay. Where do you want it?
2 really quick things, just before you go. If you did not do the registration and you want us to email you more information about what you saw today, you had to register when you walked in the door up here. It was like kind of a rainbow colored form. Just click on that vote tab and that'll get you to the right registration form. You want to click on that real quick? If you did not fill in this form today, fill this in. That way we can get you more information and get feedback, and also let you give some feedback on what you want to see in August. And then we're going to be sending out an email after as well, but maybe if you want to go back to the site real quick. The session evaluation on the site, if you want to click and fill that out, it's 3 questions. It's what was most helpful, what could be improved, and what was the 3rd question? Oh, what do you plan to do now? Anything that you took away from today that you think you want to do more of. This just kind of gives us an idea of what was actually useful.